Hi, everybody. This is Bill, and I'm here today with our honorary geezer, Jess, who is Dan's niece, and she has consented to join us today to talk about a record that came out in 2006, a very popular record from those days by My Chemical Romance. And it's what many, including me, consider their masterwork, The Black Parade. And we'll talk a little bit about it because it fits into the context of what Jess discussed most recently about Panic at the Disco. It's kind of a whole genre of bands that came out in the 2000s, and they had a very strong level of popularity. And a lot of it driven by kind of a punk ethos combined with a lot of other bits and pieces of the rock and roll past. And from my standpoint, this record is really a great example of what you can do with rummaging around in the dust heap of rock and roll, and you can stick stuff together and come up with something that's if not exactly brand new, it can be really a powerful 21st century version of this sort of music. So I'm going to check in with you, Jess, and ask you about how you first came across this record and what it said to you when you started to listen to it.
So when I was younger, I had never actually listened to the record from start to finish. I had just heard a lot of iconic songs like Teenagers, Mama, Welcome to the Black Parade. And so this was my first time actually experiencing the album start to finish, the way that it was intended. And I just can't believe that I didn't do it sooner, you know, because it was great.
So what was it you most recently listened to it just as part of kind of prepping for this? Is that the first time? So
Mhm.
it is quite an experience, right? I mean, so you think you've got a handle on a band, and then you hear it in the context of the whole work, and it kind of blows your mind.
Yes.
Now, so you mentioned a handful of those songs, and those are among the greatest ones on the record. Do you have a particular favorite out of the songs on the album?
It's hard to pick just one. I think This Is How I Disappear and the ones that I mentioned before all are kind of my favorites.
Had you seen the video that goes with Welcome to the Black Parade, which is one of my favorite videos of the MTV era? Is pretty interesting. Had you seen that video when it first came out in around the 2006 timeframe?
Not around when it first came out. I had seen it, but I must have been 15 at the time.
I'm going to ask some of our fellow geezers here about this record. So Jess just heard it, the whole thing in context. Dan, when you heard it, when was that? Was that just most recently, or had you heard the record before?
No, most recently. I was not aware of them till Jess suggested this, just a few weeks ago. So I was new to. I had heard of the group and maybe just heard a couple songs here or there, but I didn't make the connection till recently. And so I'm going to diverge a little bit on my first listen to it was, as it's already been mentioned, that there's some influences from different, new wave, post-punk stuff. I mean, I hear a little bit of David Bowie, T-Rex, Cheap Trick. I'm talking musically. Mm-hmm. And some of there's a couple songs on here like This Is How I Disappear. I've got in my notes, it's a triple speed rocker, which, kind of reminds me of some of the Ramones, their approach to their early work. And I guess in a way you might say for a 2006 release, it's a great homage to the late 70s in its own way. I thought the concept was interesting and original, about with the patient, and then the Black Parade, and this person is in their last minutes or hours of their life, and then going through that whole passage of what they see, which is the Black Parade. I just thought I would have preferred it if there had been a little bit more variety in the lead singer in his delivery. I thought it was like a full frontal, kind of a scream approach, which, for post-punk rock, okay, that's okay. But it seemed like that was the mode. And, but that's just old geezer me, reacting to that. Yeah. Gerard.
Well, let me ask old geezer Scott. You grew up in the era of the rock opera. How does this compare to your take on a rock opera, Scott?
It's one of the things that that struck me about this record is this is a really strong concept, and they do it very well. The album is very, very focused on this concept. It's one of the rare times when you come across a concept album that actually works. I think, this was something back in the mid 70s with all the prog bands in the mid 70s. That was the thing back then, as all the prog bands came up with these big, massive concepts. Some of them worked, most of them didn't. It was more, the concept was usually just something that they put out there that really didn't have a whole lot to do with the work in front of you, right? The thing is, one of my favorite examples from back in the 70s is Genesis: The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. This is a big statement and a big concept, a story that Peter Gabriel wrote. And you listen to this album, it's a great album, there's great music on there, but the concept just gets lost. It's incoherent. The story itself is pretty incoherent, and even Tony Banks and the guys from Genesis say that. And that's something that something that happens with most concept albums. It doesn't happen here. This thing really, really works. You get the sense the first time you listen to it. Every time you listen to it, you get the sense that this is a guy's journey through the whole death process, and kudos to whoever was the visionary behind that, because they really put their vision out there, and it really, really did work.
Well, I think the key thing here is that it's pretty audacious. It's kind of goofy. It should be depressing. It's about, Dan mentioned a patient. The patient is dying of cancer, then dies of cancer, then looks back at his life. It should be more depressing than it is, but it's because the band is incapable of writing songs that are not insanely catchy and that are, it's like you've got Bohemian Rhapsody smashing headlong into, Born to Run. It's just like,
yeah.
What comes out is this, really powerful anthemic sort of stuff. So,
there have been some of the concept albums that I recall from back in my day. There's one in particular that I remember that was all built around death. And Lou Reed's Magic and Loss from the late '80s or early '90s, and that was one that was pretty focused too. But that was a really depressing, hopeless feeling coming out of that record. This one it's more fanciful, and like you say, it doesn't. It feels to me like you're listening to a play here. and not some just nasty, depressing treatise on death. That's not what it is. It's set up as a stage play. I mean, there's good things, there's happiness, and there's sadness, and there's it runs all the emotions, but it just works. That's the thing. And I want to add to D mentioned all the people that he heard in here. There's another one I heard in here right from the beginning. I heard Tom Waits in here. And Tom Waits he did 3 or 4 records where that they were songs that he wrote for Robert Wilson plays, and this really had that feeling. This just had that feeling that it could be a stage play. I would be interested to see. I don't know if they ever performed this record front to back on stage, but I mean, I've seen the videos where they're dressed in the outfits, but I don't know if they've actually like done the whole album and done the whole show this way, like setting it up like a narrative. But if they did, I'm sure it worked pretty well.
Jess, I'm going to ask you, have you, so the guys are, the band broke up. They kind of talked about maybe doing a reunion a number of times, but they actually have gotten back together. They're on tour now, and that had been delayed a couple of times over by the pandemic. Have you seen any of the YouTube videos of the band on the current tour?
I have not.
You should check it out because Scott is mentioning when the record came out, they had a very defined look. So the whole concept was the parade was, they were actually they themselves were the Black Parade. The parade also represented kind of the march of everybody toward mortality's end, and they were wearing these marching band outfits. Well, the band now, because the guys are in their early 40s at least, they're all dressed for comfort, I would say. They're wearing comfortable shoes and nice loose clothing. I mean, they look fine, but they sound great. It's very exciting to see them performing. Are we wrong in thinking this is a kind of I won't say cheerful, but not a depressing death album, but sort of kind of in between?
No, well,
I'm asking Jess.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Jess, what do you think?
I don't think you're wrong. I really like that the album was not just a depressing album because there are people that have cancer and it is depressing, but they still have their whole lives, and there's a whole spectrum of emotions and stuff that goes into it. They're not just depressed all the time.
Right. And they're not defined by that, one component, no matter how serious it might be. Okay, Scott, you could pipe in.
No. I'd already touched on that, but did I read somewhere that they actually did kind of in the beginning set this up as a fake band, like Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band and all that? And
yes.
Yeah.
So they, as I was saying, they are ostensibly the band is the Black Parade. So that is also the name of the album. It is also the name of the best song, I think, on the album, or certainly the most recognized song. And I would be remiss if I did not mention, because you were talking about, theatrics. Don't forget that Liza Minnelli has a little cameo appearance in this record, which, I mean, to me, it's like,
it's perfect. And it's perfect.
Gerard Way, who's the lead singer and I think the mastermind behind this band, he's got a very clear idea about how he wants to go about things, and he's really helped, I think, immeasurably by Rob Carvello, who is the producer, who at this point was working extensively with Green Day, and you hear a lot of that same kind of pop punk kind of hard mix, but it's very sympathetic in terms of tunefulness and clarity. Really good stuff. So I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's a great record. I mean, the fans loved it. It sold, I think, triple platinum, so it was quite popular. But I think it's a great example of what, the era. So if you were not a fan of this band, given the fact that they still sold that, boatloads of records when the album came out, it was well reviewed and regarded, but it fit into a certain classification. So if you were a rock and roll fan, you wouldn't necessarily have heard it because it just, the marketplace was getting fractured by the internet and the way people listen to music. So it's unfortunate. I'm glad that all of us have had a chance to listen to it because, I do think it's a great record. It certainly holds its own. If you want to imagine the Buzzcocks and Iron Maiden meeting up for coffee, this is what it's like. This is what it sounds like. They've had too much coffee now and they're over caffeinated. So it's going to
they're a little over caffeinated. I agree with Dee on that one. Is that at some point I wanted to tell the guy, stop screaming at me. Just take a breath. Take a breath. Take it easy. Give us a little breathing room here because it's pretty much this full on assault that I think I think they would serve themselves better by dialing things back a little bit now and then. And it just it was just full steam ahead from top to bottom.
Well, this is the screamo part of emo, so it's a big spectrum.
Yeah.
It is pretty exciting. I think as I said, all in all, it serves their legacy well. It's they didn't go much further than this. Their next album came out 4 years later and didn't really succeed in the marketplace. Then they subsequently kind of broke up. And as I said, they're back together on tour. But this really is the high point of their career. So I think that's what we've got. Anybody with any last comments?
Dee had his hand up there.
Just a couple of fun facts I came across. One, it was just mentioned about Liza Minnelli making a vocal cameo on the song "Mama," which was pretty interesting. And yes, the concept, I guess, to nobody's surprise, was all Gerard Way's with the uniforms and all this. And then he, I read where he dyed his hair silver and did the makeup and the blackness to, evoke, somebody that's dying. That was his visual approach, which for him is natural because before he even decided to form a band and perform, he was working as a cartoonist for one of the cable companies. I don't know if it was Netflix or whatever. So he does have that flair, that background to it. And then finally on Rolling Stones, however much credence people still give to that, on their revised, updated top 500 albums of the past, I guess from the rock era till today, the Black Parade comes in at 361.
Interesting. So even the oldsters at Rolling Stone recognize that it's an important record. I mean, it's a great one. It's well worth a listen. The album before this, Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge, is good. I don't think it's quite as great, although it does have a fantastic song in particular, I'm Not Okay, I Promise, which is great, and Helena, which is also great. So anyway,
are you familiar, Bill? Let me jump in here with a question for you. Are you familiar, Will? I was looking at their discography, and they only did one more proper album since then. It was in 2010. It was called Danger Days: The True Lives of the Fabulous Killjoys, which I guess is another concept album. Are you familiar with that one?
I listened to it when it came out, and I was not favorably impressed.
Okay.
And I guess, at large, the reception was likewise not terribly positive. So the band, as I said, subsequently broke up. I think they had broken up by 2013 after another tour. I mean, they've always been popular. I mean, they remain popular. It's again, as I said, it's surprising that given how popular they are still not as well known as a band, of not as, I wouldn't say of comparable import like Nirvana, but but they're a band that everybody should know who they are, but they don't. And it's just a reflection of the marketplace of 2006.
So, was this album The Black Parade? Was this essentially lightning in a bottle?
No, I don't think so.
No?
I think it was a natural evolution of the band. They started out as a, they're from New Jersey. So, I mean, if you know New Jersey punk, I mean, and they took the Misfits, kind of a classic second generation New York, but they were from New Jersey, a punk outfit. Glenn Danzig was their lead singer. They wore makeup, and their whole thing, their ethos was zombies and aliens, but it was through a punk, sound and, short songs, catchy songs. They were like that. So they started their own band in kind of emulation of that. And they evolved over the course of 3 records to this stage. I mean, to be honest, a lot of their fans, their initial fans were like, these guys are selling out. I mean, what the heck is this? This is ridiculous. They're going for the big.
You get every band has early fans that think that when they get successful. Like, they were better when nobody knew who they were.
Well, that's what happened. So no, it was not lightning in a bottle. I think to me it was a confluence of the right stuff intersecting with what people were listening to because or wanted to listen to, and they were there at the right time. But they were also there at the right time because they helped to seed the ground with the records before that. I mean, they were doing stuff that led to where they ended up. So I think it makes perfect sense. And I think that's what we've got, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for contributing. I hope you guys have enjoyed listening to us talking about this record. And Jess, thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate your insights, and we hope to see you guys soon. We've got more great stuff in the pipeline.
Well, put down your Playboy, put on some hush puppy shoes. Let's play it one time.